Hello and welcome to Broken Entertainment. So, I was going to do a different video today for Sunday, but this article popped up, and I saw it first with Ethan Van Sciver, and wanted to take a look at it for myself. And I think it's way too important for what's going on in comics right now to go ahead and let that wait another day. So I'm gonna get on this here. Um, Jason Fabok, who works for DC Comics and did the Three Jokers, the Three Jokers comic book run that was very successful for DC Comics recently, and one of their few successes of late, I might add, has decided rather than working on the sequel for that, which made him a whole bunch of money, he's going to work on an indie comic. And this, to me, is just another sign of DC Comics' complete collapse and its spiral towards oblivion. And when you look into this and see what he actually says, what he says, even more than his decision not to work on the sequel to The Three Jokers, really puts it out there that the writing is absolutely on the wall. DC is essentially a corpse that isn't aware that it's dead yet. So let's go ahead and get into this. All the text, this is from Bleeding Cool, all the text in the gray here is what he is saying directly. So you may not see this for a while, but it's my future, this being this teaser image here and the comic he's working on. And it's going to be incredible. Now, just him saying, not this is a future project, not this is something I'm working on, not this is something I'm passionate about. Seeing him actually just say, it's my future. To me, that's saying he's done with DC. And you'll see more of that as we go on. But you have a major artist here for DC Comics washing his hands of it and leaving without any remorse whatsoever. And with an obvious eye towards his own future rather than the future of DC Comics. And if he felt like DC Comics was going somewhere good, you wouldn't see this. So Three Jokers has freed me from the grind, meaning he's made a whole bunch of money. And now I can focus on quality and draw what I want to. Can't wait until the day I can show all this off. Project 1 of 2021. So the next he says, a lot of the stuff previous to that were rush jobs and forced work by DC, which I hated. So not only was it work by DC, but he hated it. He was doing projects he had no interest in, and DC was just pushing it, saying, okay, get this done, get this done, get this done. When you have an artist for comics working on something only because they have to, you'll see a quality drop, but you'll also see moves like this where if they find a way out, they take it. Now I can do what I want with my time and focus on books I actually want to draw and have a say in. So he didn't like the books he was on to begin with. Not just from the perspective of I'd rather work on something else, but his lack of say in the work and the direction of the comics in general was something he disagreed with. And a lot of fans of DC obviously have too, if you look at their sales. He's not going to crowdfund it. Perhaps in the future. I just want to draw and focus on that, but I see the draw for it. So maybe one day, or a hybrid like Tony Daniel or Keanu Reeves did. And here we go. But DC is so poorly run, it took 6 months to get back to us on our pitch. So I took the work elsewhere. I think that speaks for itself. You know, they've fired so many people at DC that they can't even get back to somebody on a pitch. I mean, 6 months is an incredibly long amount of time to get back to someone. And he then elaborated, this is where it gets really bad for DC. I worked for DC for 10 years, and a majority of that was when the company was run like a well-oiled machine, with leadership that loved its creators and trusted them. So just with that, think about what he's saying there in between the lines. That DC now neither trusts nor loves its creators. They don't care. It wasn't perfect, but there's a sense of trust and a willingness to listen to ideas, so they're not listening. When I say the company is run poorly, it's because I've seen it run well for so many years. I love DC with a passion and want it to succeed, but right now I don't think it's being run well, and it's okay to say that. Many people working there are saying the same thing. This is the first guy that's going to leave the sinking ship, but he's not going to be the last. For starters, they fired almost everyone I worked for the company, many of which were passionate about the books and didn't deserve to go. So, in my previous video, I talked about how passion for what they're doing is so important for creators. If the audience can see if you don't care, and if you don't care, nobody's going to buy your book. And I think we've seen a lot of product out of DC lately, and Marvel, where it just seems like nobody gives a damn. And here you have somebody saying it, that the people who cared were fired. Now, I understand AT&T's position. DC is not making money. They're losing their audience. We need to change the company, change its direction. But you change direction by getting rid of the people at the top and replacing them. You don't change direction by getting rid of everybody. But they've basically done that. And that's because, in my mind, AT&T has absolutely planned to kill off DC Publishing and resort to selling the IP out to companies like Boom Studios, IDW, and so on to publish superhero comics while they focus on using the IP to make movies. It's okay to be truthful and call things out. I'm not an employee and not blinded to the fact that ownership can make bad decisions. He goes on, I had to make a choice and work with someone who wanted my services. There you go. When the time comes, I'll go back and produce more for DC and give them my all. Jeff and I have many stories, referring to Jeff Johns, already brewing, but things are going to change big time in comics. And you got to make moves for your future. He's laying it out right there. Here you have somebody who worked for DC, all but saying they're dead. They're not functional as a company. They're not producing quality work. And if he wanted to maintain a future in comic books, he had to go to someone else who would. That's probably the biggest statement he makes. Is things are going to change big time in comics, and you have to make the moves for your future. This is going to be... You've seen DC collapsing and spiraling towards death. Now you're starting to see... It's like when you see in the movies when you see a jet fighter get shot down and you see it spiraling through the air towards the ground and pieces of it start to fly off. This is the pieces coming off. I absolutely believe that. And we're looking at, I think if we're already seeing major important... I mean, think about this. This is the guy that did the art for a majorly successful comic book run for them. And he pitched an idea, and it took them 6 months to respond. If you're a comic book company, like let's take Boom just as an example. And let's say that one of their artists who was involved, or one of the major creators involved in, say, Power Rangers Shattered Grid, which made them a whole bunch of money and revived the Power Rangers comic book franchise, and has really set them on the map. I mean, I showed you in a previous video, their Kickstarter is now up over, I think 500,000. And if someone there, if that person came to them and said, hey, I've got a comic book idea, what do you think? And sent them a pitch, do you really think they'd take 6 months to get back to them? So DC Comics is now run by people that don't know what they're doing. And the writing is on the wall to people like this guy that it's over. Not the comic book industry, because that will survive in some form or another. And I think we're beginning to see that, where you see Boom Studios having a lot of success. You see companies like IDW beginning to have some success. Okay. But the big two, Marvel and DC, have run headfirst into the iceberg and DC is about halfway underwater right now. And AT&T is going to cut them off entirely. Just a matter of time. And previous predictions from Ethan Van Sciver was a year. I think if we're already starting to see talent leave, it might be less than a year. We'll see what else comes. But to me, this is major, major news. Not because of what he said, but because of what he's not saying when you read between the lines. And because of this one sentence. Again, things are going to change big time in comics, and you got to make moves for your future. And his move for his future in comics was to leave DC. So, there you have it. I think it's going to be a really interesting year watching comics. So if you liked the video, hit the like button. If you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing to the channel. Ring the notification bell to get notifications of new videos, and I will see you next time.